Welcome in, Vegas Nation. Cassie Soto here alongside Raiders beat writer for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Vinny Bonsignor, on a very busy Saturday for the Raiders. Vinny, we are now one step closer to the start of the 2020 season because the Raiders have narrowed it down to their 53-man roster. Vinny, I think I want to start with the biggest headline of the day that kind of took everybody by surprise, and that's that the Raiders went ahead and traded rookie running back Lynn Bowden Jr. to Miami.
Yeah, and that end of it was a shock and a massive concession that the Raiders made a huge mistake on draft night. There's no way to get around that. They swung and missed on Lynn Bowden Jr. Just put it out there, and obviously they understand that. They parted ways with the player ASAP. Now, granted, as training camp went on, I know that, from our perspective, the burst, the explosiveness, the speed that we had heard about just hadn't translated yet. I was wondering if maybe he was thinking too much a little bit, or, what the case was might have been kind of playing while thinking rather than instinctually. Whatever the case was, he just never stood out in any form or fashion. My sources with the Raiders said he decisively got beat out, and that's that. But I also had another source who has knowledge of the situation, and I think there might have been something else going on. The indication that I got was Lynn just never quite fit in, and you could probably take that a number of different ways, whether it was on the football field or off the football field as well. I know the Raiders have put a high premium on high character and all that. I'm not trying to insinuate anything necessarily about Lynn Bowden Jr. I don't want to do that, but it's conspicuous when a team parts ways this quickly with a third-round pick and somebody that they were touting as a player that they were counting on to be, at the very least, a solid special teams contributor. But really, they were looking at him as a decisive backup for Josh Jacobs, somebody that could add some versatility as a wildcat quarterback in situational football. They were thinking they had big plans for Lynn Bowden Jr. Obviously, it just didn't materialize, and for whatever reason, they decided it was best to just cut ties ASAP.
Well, sticking on that note for a second, and with the running backs, the team also went ahead and released Theo Riddick just, I believe, 3 weeks after signing the veteran. When we spoke to offensive coordinator Greg Olsen just a few days ago, he mentioned that there was going to be some big decisions that needed to be made at the running back position. Do you feel now, with the loss or the trade of Bowden and with Theo Riddick, that Josh Jacobs is ready to get going, that he's got enough guys behind him to keep the ball rolling?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think Devontae Booker, who did look good in training camp, earns that spot behind Josh Jacobs, with Jalen Richard being a special teams guy and a third down back. And then obviously you have Alec Ingold as the fullback. But also keep in mind, there's an expanded 16-player practice squad, and 6 of those spots on that practice squad are now allowable to be used on fully vested or fully vested veterans, guys that have 4 or more years of service time in the league. That's never been the case, and they've done it for obvious reasons. It's in response to COVID-19. So what essentially the NFL is doing is allowing NFL teams to make a 6 veteran player taxi squad of practice squad players. So when you start thinking of Theo Riddick, Sam Young, Dante Jones, Chris Smith, these are veteran players that the Raiders, Kyle Emanuel as well, these are veteran players that conspicuously showed up on the roster midway during training camp as veteran players who were able to get 2 or 3 weeks of practice time in, get acclimated to the system. I would not be shocked or surprised if all of those guys aren't part of that 16-man practice squad, but also that 6-player veteran squad that consists of guys that are already fully vested that are now allowable on your practice squad.
Well, staying with the offense really fast, Vinny, are we surprised that wide receivers Marcel Aitman and Keelan Doss were waived and that Rico Gafford made the cut?
Well, again, with Rico, what he brings you also is special teams returnability factor as a kick returner and maybe even a punt returner if need be. So he's got a different skill set than the guys that got released, Keelan Doss. And Marcel Aitman. So that works in his favor. So I think in his case, it was just he brings something different to the table. But it's also, a voice of or a sign of confidence in Henry Ruggs, It's a sign of confidence in Brian Edwards and Hunter Renfroe. Those three players at this stage of their career are, as young as they are going to be able to contribute right away. And then you also throw in the veterans, Zay Jones and Nelson Aguilar. I think those are your 5 wide receivers that are going to get a lot of time in a rotation throughout the season on a game day basis, with Rico Gafford being sort of a change of pace guy, but also somebody that can excel on special teams.
Well, I think Las Vegas fans here locally were pretty bummed to hear that former UNLV standout Javen White did not make the 53-man roster. But is there hope there for those fans that they could see him on the practice squad?
No question about it. He's a guy that the Raiders spoke highly of early in training camp. I think the issue there was, when you look at the starters, Nick Kwiatkowski and Corey Littleton, they're really good sideline-to-sideline players, specifically in pass coverage, but they're a little light on their feet. And so the Raiders went out and traded for Rayquan Mcmillan, who adds girth and power and run stopping ability. I think he's going to get the majority of reps as that third linebacker in your base 4-3 defense, with Nicholas Morrow being his primary backup, and then Tanner Muse being the backup to Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski. But there's no doubt that Javen White, if he clears profiles as a strong candidate to be a member of the 16-player practice squad.
All right, Vinny. Well, thank you so much for the updates. We look forward to the rest of the updates that you bring us as we get closer to the start of the 2020 season. Vinny, thank you.
You got it. Have a good one.
For everything you need to know about the Raiders 53-man roster, the practice squad, and everything leading up to the kickoff of the 2020 season, head on over to vegasnation.com. For Vinny Bonsignore, I'm Cassie Soto. Thanks for watching.